A lot of people are saying Ohio State's defense will be better in 2022, but are they saying this and explaining it in a clear and concise way? Well, during today's episode, I have a few reasons why the Buckeyes defense will be better during the upcoming college football season. You can only hear them right here on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, July 18th in the year 2022, and I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. I would also like to thank you for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. On today's episode, we begin our look at Ohio State's defense, breaking out different positions, which is going to happen starting tomorrow. But today, a few reasons why Ohio State's defense will be better during the upcoming season. I remember listening to Colin Cowherd shortly after he began hosting his show on FS1 and Fox Sports Radio, and he was talking about the proper way to build an offense and to build a defense. A lot of people, we get all up in arms. We get excited about things that are happening on the outside. Maybe it might be a five-star corner that commits to your school in college, or maybe it might be you might get the number one wide receiver in the country to come to your school. There are so many different things that go into building a offense and defense that people like to get and look at the outside. Things that are exciting, things that are easy to describe. But Colin Cowherd did a phenomenal job back then reiterating that you can't build from the outside in. That's not a good way to build things. You have to build from the inside out. A bad offensive line, we have seen what a bad offensive line does to a team and to an offense. It's hard to move the ball. We have seen right here in Columbus, right here in Ohio State, what a bad defensive line or defensive line that is not up to the standard that is set at the school, what happens when that defensive line starts to not play like you think they should. And Colin Cowherd did a phenomenal job of letting us know, build from the inside out, not outside in. When thinking about Ohio State's defense and how it will be improved in 2022, it all starts up front. I don't care who the DBs are. I don't care if Jim Knowles is going to implement a different wrinkle to the three safety look. I don't care if you have two five-star linebackers that are coming in that are studs on day one. I don't care. It does not mean anything. It all starts up front. You might say, Jay, the Buckeyes had an All-American in Haskell Garrett last year. What are you saying? The defensive line last year was where things started, and that's where the problem started, and the problem was really trickled down. You might say, well, there's some okay linebacker play, but the linebacker play would have been better if you had better play from the defensive line with the combination of JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and Zach Harrison and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. And you also have possibly Tyler Friday coming back from an injury and being in the rotation. Will Caden Curry move up the depth chart during the season? These are things that are to be determined. But with the first four that I mentioned, in JT Tuimoloau, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, these are on the outside defensive end guys, and you have Zach Harrison and Jack Sawyer. You have those four guys. Those are guys you can trust. Now, I do believe Sawyer and Tuimoloau should be the starting defensive ends with Harrison and Javonte Jean-Baptiste and the backup. Now, you may say, Jay, well, Zach Harrison's been here for a while. He's experienced. He should start. Okay, great. I think the best guys should start and play the most snaps. And those two guys that are the best to me, Tuimoloau and Sawyer, let them in. Let them play a little bit more than they did last year. Let them start and see how good this defense plays. Now, those are the guys on the defensive ends. What about on the interior? We got Teron Vincent, and you have Tyleek Williams, you have Jerron Cage, you have Ty Hamilton. You might even see Mike Hall in the rotation, as there was a recent article that I saw the caption of, haven't got a chance to read that thing just yet. It surely seems like this defensive line is going to be one that is heftier than it was last year, healthier than it was last year, and hungrier than it was last year to simply go out there and get the job done. Now, I also think them and their goal to get the job done, that was the same goal from last year's team, but I do believe these guys are more talented, which is why I do think the sack numbers and QB hurries will be up this year, because you're going to get pressure from the interior and exterior. And if you dial up the proper type of blitz, baby, it's going to confuse every offense. It all starts up front. If you don't have your defensive line set up properly, if you don't have a defensive line that you can trust, sorry, buddy, you might win 11 games and the defense still might be poor. You might win 11 games and you look back and say, what could have been better for the defense? Better play from the D line. A lot of people will point to the linebackers last year, or maybe a little bit of Josh Proctor's injury and Bryson Shaw replacing him. And then a lot of the rotation last year being a little questionable. Everybody can do that. But it all starts with the big hog mollies up front. Remember in school, playing offense or playing defense, I remember we would be in games, and all of a sudden the running backs would be like, hey, man, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? The series before, y'all were playing great. Y'all were doing a phenomenal job. And then this next series, we praise y'all a little bit, and what happens? We fall. You guys aren't doing your job. You're inconsistent. I don't believe the inconsistent play from the D-line that might be a part of some schools, or maybe it was a part of the Ohio State Buckeyes last year. I don't think that will be a problem. Heftier guys in the interior. I believe every guy that I've mentioned, Teron Vincent, Tyleek Williams, Ty Hamilton, and Jerron Cage, I believe they're all 300 plus. I want to say my call might be above that ticker as well. Those are the kind of guys that Larry Johnson wants. And imagine being an opposing offensive lineman. You're like, okay, I got a 315, 1 tech, and I got a 310, 3 tech. Ain't no plays off, buddy. Ain't nothing. They're leaning on you the entire game, using their leverage, quick off the ball. This is where a defense starts. A bad D-line or inconsistent D-line, expect to have issues with your linebackers and in coverage as well. That's just one reason. I got a few more for you. This Ohio State defense should be better in 2022, and I'll tell you, continue this conversation right here only on Locked On Buckeyes. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job posting in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. If you missed yesterday's emergency pod, it is still available in your feed. We did a quick breakdown of Ohio State commitment, recent Buckeye commitment in Jelani Thurman. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. It's a quick, short episode. You can get it. You can hop on the treadmill, and before you know it, the episode will be done. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. Available July 18th, that is today, on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. So one reason down that the Buckeyes will be better in 2022 is simply because of the interior and the exterior of the D-line is going to be drastically improved and better than it was last season. But another reason of this one, you might hear the word youth and think, oh, we got incoming guys, the incoming guys, CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles. When I think that youth movement, I kind of teased it a little bit too early. You might hear when I start explaining this, you hear the word youth, you might think incoming freshmen. That's not where we're going. Another reason why the Buckeyes defense will be better in 2022 is because of the youth movement, primarily around those second-year players. And I got a list of them here. Some of them are starters. Some will be in rotation or might be in rotation. And when you hear these names, you might say, well, I know he did some things out of high school. He was a highly touted recruit. He committed to Ohio State. He's been putting that work in. Why second-year guys, not the incoming guys, and not the seniors and the juniors? Why specifically this group? This group is special, and this is one of those groups that if they stay intact and they keep progressing at the rate that they are, you can win a national championship behind this group and these guys that are playing defense. I have a few guys here, and trust me, you'll quickly understand when I start saying their names, why they are on. This says all these guys are second-year guys or sophomores at the Ohio State University. JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, Denzel Burke, Jack Sawyer, Jordan Hancock, Jakailin Johnson, Reed Carrico, and Mike Hall. The first guys, JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, Denzel Burke, and Jack Sawyer, they're either going to start or be the first off the bench at that position and get a lot of plays and reps during the season. Most of the guys I just mentioned, all of them should start. I don't think all of them will start, but all of them will be in rotation. We have seen a little spotlight or a little hint of what Tyleik Williams can do on the field. He had to cut some weight, but two, he had to get in better shape at the same time. And three, he had to commit himself to stay in that shape and then also commit himself a little bit better to being the kind of guy that's always going to put that work in. Denzel Burke, we got to see what he did last year in a role where he wasn't supposed to start, but due to injury, he took advantage of that opportunity, and we're expecting him to take another step this year. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, we saw what they did last year. We saw them in the spring game. Granted, they were going up against the backups for the O-line, which is not up to par for the normal backups for the Buckeyes, but I do think those two guys should be starters for the Buckeyes throughout the entire season, even week one against Notre Dame. Put them out there, let them spin, let's see what happens. But then with Jordan Hancock and Jakailin Johnson, they are the two. And Legend Cavazos was a part of the reason. I'm going to say that word. Legend Cavazos was one that was getting better at Ohio State. But due to the growth and progression of Jakailin Johnson and Jordan Hancock, he said, I want to play now. I want to play immediately. I don't want to wait behind these two guys and let them get better and let them be the first corners off the bench. I want to play now. When Legend Cavazos ended up transferring because of the growth and progression of Hancock and Johnson. These two guys, if you think about someone that's going to come in and either have a four corner set in a dime package, or if you're going to have somebody that maybe needs to Denzel Burke or Cam Brown needs a rest, Johnson and Hancock are going to be the next ones off the bench right there to be the backups for those two players. And goodness, if you have those guys as your backups, it's going to give opposing quarterbacks a lot of problems. But then you might say, Jay, you mentioned two other names. One of them is not going to be the top four D tackles on the roster. And the other one in a two linebacker set is not going to be that guy that's going to get a lot of play. Well, let's go with Reed Carrico first, linebacker, and then let's go to Mike Hall after that. So Reed Carrico is a special case. It's a special type of individual right now. When he committed to Ohio State was using a three linebacker set, a traditional 4-3. Ryan Day ended up deciding it was time to switch from a 4-3 to a 4-2-5 to better combat what opposing offenses are doing right now. And with them primarily running three wide receiver sets throughout the entire game, or throughout most of the game, Why have a third linebacker out there when your third linebacker cannot guard that slot receiver? So you bring in either a safety or a corner, nickel corner, whatever you want to call it, to be that guy, to guard that guy. It's a great way for your defense to match up with what the offense has on the field. But the Buckeyes are going to play some teams, two of them for sure this year, Wisconsin, Iowa, that'll come out in two back, two tight end, a two back, three tight end set, and just be like, hey, you better bring the beef because we're bringing ours. If you don't bring your beef, we're going to roll right through you. That's what's going to happen. And so the Buckeyes know in those cases, in those situations, special cases, we need a Sam or a strong side linebacker to be like, okay, look, who is going to be that guy? Now, I thought Reed Carrico is going to be someone's going to be a backup to the middle linebacker. Right now, linebacker is probably going to be still Chambers, Tommy Eichenberg, Cody Simon will be in the mix as well. Some will say CJ Hicks is going to be in there as well, but incoming freshman, you guys have heard my thoughts about that one for quite a long time. I am not going to go out and rehash my thoughts with that. But you got to have a good, strong side linebacker when you go to a 4-3 against those teams that have heftier and beefier offensive sets. Reed Carrico is going to be that guy. And everything I've heard Bobby Carpenter talk about him. I've read articles about him. Trust me, Reed Carrico is going to be someone that we being fans of the Ohio State Buckeyes, can get behind and can trust during those sets to get the job done. Trust me. Now, some of you might say, Jay, what about Chip Trainum, the transfer from Arizona State? Or what about, now, not so much in the youth movement, but in the linebacker situation, or probably EA, now OT. Now OT. Off that train. Sorry, buddy. Saw enough last year. Saw enough growth last year from a lot of guys. Sorry. Not going to happen. No. Don't. No, there's a lot of other guys that are better than him. And then when it comes to Chip Trainum, I have no idea. I don't put much stock into what I saw during a spring game, so I don't know what we're going to get during the regular season. But I just don't know. That's where I am. I have no idea. Maybe next year, maybe he could be a middle linebacker. If somebody gets hurt, I just don't know where his role is. But what I do know is Reed Carrico is going to be that guy in a third linebacker set, 4-3 set, who's going to be someone you can trust. And you added Mike Hall, his quickness, his ability to get off the ball, him being someone who's going to push those older guys in Jerron Cage, Jerron Vincent. Trust me. Y'all are going to love this group of the youth movement at Ohio State. Not just this year, but the next few years, we'll be able to see how good the youth movement is at the Ohio State Buckeyes. 2 down, 1 to go. We're discussing ways the Ohio State defense and reasons why the Buckeyes defense will be better in 2022. The next one I want to mention, Jim Knowles. Why Jim Knowles? Stick around to find out. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. 2 down, 1 to go. I mentioned the new defensive coordinator at Ohio State. And I have heard a lot of people say Ohio State's defense will be better in 2022 because they're running Jim Knowles' defense. He's going to throw in all these wrinkles. He's going to have this new position, this jack position, or this new hybrid linebacker position. Oh, my goodness. This is new. This is new for Ohio State. Him implementing this stuff is going to be a phenomenal reason why the Buckeyes will be better on the defensive side of the ball in 2022. And I'm going to be here to tell you, yes, the defense The defense can be better in 2022, but it's not only because of a coach. If a coach was the only reason that a team was going to be successful, if a coach was the only thing you needed for a team to win the national championship or the NBA finals or the World Series or the Stanley Cup finals or the Super Bowl, Phil Jackson would have won NBA finals and multiple with Kobe Bryant in between the time that Shaq left and Powell got to LA. He would have won the NBA finals when Michael Jordan was not on the Bulls in the 90s. He would have, NFL. Let's go football now. Bill Belichick, with him being easily the best coach in football, he would have more rings than he does right now. Greg Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs, would have won more rings with Tim Duncan. 2, he would not be going through a rebuild right now. Let's bring it closer to home. Urban Meyer would have had more rings at Florida, would have had more rings at Ohio State if all you needed was a coach. Nick Saban, easily the best coach in the game right now in college football, he would have more rings than he does right now. So when people say it's only because Jim Knowles and Jim Knowles' defense is going to be the reason that the Buckeyes defense will be successful, ask them this question. Does the coach play on the field? Is he a player coach? Well, the answer is no, he's not. So since the coach is not on the field, he's not a player coach, he can only do so much. That he can only, his hands are tied. He could do what he can in the offseason. He could do what he can during the season. He could do what he needs to do during film sessions. But a coach is not the only reason a team is going to be better on one side of the ball or the other. You know what it takes? Competent players. Yes, a coach can coach them. A coach can teach them. A coach can even help them get better. But what those players do on the field is the ultimate reason. And you may say, Jay, what are you saying? It ain't only about Jim Knowles. He's a part of the reason the Buckeyes will be better in 2022, but it's ultimately up to the players. You can look at the Buckeye roster and say the Buckeyes D-line is more talented in 2022 versus 2021. The Buckeyes linebackers are more talented in 2022 versus 2021. The Buckeyes DBs, all 5 of them, are more talented in 2022 versus 2021. So that's where things lie right there. It's all about the players. Better players should play better, should play consistently better than they did the previous year, regardless of who the coach is. Many people have said, and I had no idea I was going to go on that little rant, but many people have said, Jim Knowles' defense going to confuse you. Jim Knowles' defense going to do some crazy things to you. Jim Knowles' defense going to confuse the opposing quarterback. That's all great. Those sound good. But just like I mentioned with the defense, if a D-line ain't good, expect issues with your linebackers and in pass coverage. If the players aren't good, I don't care who the coach is. Y'all going to have a whole lot of issues. If the players are average, you're going to have issues on defense, and it don't matter who the coach is. If it was all about a coach, I listed a few coaches previously that are all Hall of Famers in their respective sports that, well, they don't have all the rings when they're coaching. It's about the players, y'all. It's all about the players. Jim Knowles' defense is great. Jim Knowles coming in and changing things up and adding his flavor is great. Tanner McAllister transferring to Ohio State, that is great. But it's not all about Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles is a teacher. Jim Knowles is a coach. He don't play. And he ain't back in a lab creating players that will do the things he needs to play. This is not how that works. A coach can only do so much. You have to have players that are good enough, one, to get on the field and compete at a high level at the D1 level, but 2, you have to have players that are above average at Ohio State to consistently get the job done. It's not all about Jim Knowles, baby. If it was, we might be able to call it a natty right now and call that thing right now on July 18th of 2022. And the natty is not going to be played until the beginning of January. You can't do that. That's not how this works. It's not all about the coach and only about the coach. You have to have players that get the job done. You have to have players that understand the task at hand. And you got to have players that are talented and that are getting better, that are improving, and ultimately that are in proper shape to last the entirety of a college football season. I believe the Buckeyes have that. It's great to say Jim Knowles' defense is going to be better, and the Buckeyes will be better because of that. No, buddy. No. That only goes so far. It's about the players. They can get coached. They can get taught all the right things. But bad players or players that aren't talented, getting coached the same things Jim Knowles is teaching, the goal of winning a natty will not be accomplished. I believe the Buckeyes defense will be better. Jim Knowles is part of it. But he alone could not get the job done. You have to have players that are really talented, and the Buckeyes have that. This has been a fun episode, man. It's Monday, y'all. I'm just sitting here laughing. Got a little rant, got something a little off my chest right there. And I can't wait to get into tomorrow, breaking down more about the defensive line, D tackle, D end, and looking at how that unit stacks up against other units in the Big Ten and around the country. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now make sure to check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Know what your team is up against across the Big Ten with Locked On Big Ten every day with host Nate Dickinson and the local experts of Locked On. Nate takes you across the Big Ten in 30 minutes. Make Locked On Big Ten your second listen of the day. Locked On Big Ten is just like Locked On Buckeyes. It's free and available, audio and on YouTube, wherever you get your fine podcast.